Hello, I'm Pete Martin. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in other videos of mandolin, fiddle, improvisation, and many other musical subjects, click the subscribe banner below. And if you want to be notified when I post new videos, click the bell icon right next to it. This series teaches improvisation to people who've either never improvised before on the mandolin or who are less than real comfortable with their improvising. I would suggest going back to video number 1 of the series and watching them in order as things build on each other. There's a PDF file that goes along with this, so email me and request Improv from Scratch number 7, Major Scale Ideas. This video, more than any other, is going to use the stuff we learned in all the previous video series. So like I just said, please make sure that you've watched those and you've practiced those things and they're pretty comfortable in your hands before going on here. Now, having said all that, this is where things start to get fun, because now we see how to apply all these things we've been working at and how to make solos out of them and how to get them into your improvisations. Let's take 4 measures of a G major chord. So the first thing to do when you have a chord progression, and this is our chord progression, just one chord for 4 measures, the first thing to do is play the chord outlines so you get the sound of the chord in your mind. So I do that in example 1. One, 2, 3, 4. Now remember, this chord outline is not what we're going to use to solo because it just doesn't sound very musical if you play it very much. We're just using that to get the sound of the chord progression in our ear. Now in this case, of course, we don't have a real progression, we just have one chord. But now what we can do is take any of the things we've learned up to this point and use them as material to build a solo. So let's just say we want to take a short segment of CTS, the major CTS lick number 2. So I do that here in example 2. Now let's take the ascending CTS, the major CTS, and run it from the B note to the G note. This is example 3. In example 4, I put these 2 phrases together. And notice now, instead of sounding like 2 individual phrases, it sounds like one longer phrase. Now let's take a short G major arpeggio. This will be example 5. In example 6, we put together all the phrases we've done so far. Now we're going to descend the major CTS from G to G. This is example 7. Example 8 combines all the phrases we've learned so far. Now let's add a short CTS lick number 1. This is example 9. Example 10 has all the phrases we've worked at so far. Here we can use the descending 3, 2, 1, 3 pattern. Remember, that's a 4-note pattern. And we see that in example 11. Example 12 has this all put together. So this is the process that I want you to work on for a period of time. Take these individual phrases, any of the things that we've worked on in the previous videos, and put them together in very random ways. Notice that I didn't use any one phrase for very long. If you use any of the pattern things for very long, they start to sound like a pattern and really not a very musical phrase. So maybe a measure at the most, and quite often half a measure, is a really good thing to do. You can play the scales for longer than that, and especially you can use the scales to get from one area of the instrument to another. So if you're playing on the G string and then you want to get to the E string, you can either use the scale going up or the arpeggio going up. The arpeggio will get you there quicker, but the scale will get you there. Okay, and always remember, instead of the major scale, use the chord tone scale. Now, any of the licks that we looked at on the major scale, you can use that, but then when you come out of those, you need to make sure you're back on the beat with the note of the chord. If you aren't, you need to adjust your playing until you are. So you can add an extra note or take out a note or something like that. But anyway, it's this whole process of putting these little phrases together. Okay? Now you may want to do this at first like I did, where you actually take these individual phrases and construct them together to make something and then listen to how it goes. But eventually, I'll want you to do this while improvising. So it's my suggestion that you set a metronome or a play along very slowly to give yourself some time to think. Don't try doing this as fast as you can play, because it just won't work. You need to be able to think ahead while you're playing, and the way to learn how to do that is to do things very slow and make sure you're very comfortable with what you're doing, but you're kind of looking ahead to see what you're going to do next at the same time. You can definitely learn how to do this. It just takes a while, but you've got to do it regularly before it'll get more comfortable. When you get some of this stuff in the key of G comfortable, try it in some different keys. It's always really important to learn these in several keys, and eventually you need to learn them in all the keys that you play. But when you get comfortable with all that stuff, then go on to the next video. I'm Pete Martin. Thanks for watching.